Microsoft meeting and the Google Meet. That's why we're getting a lag. I mean, the technical end of it with Jordan, that's all working smoothly. But when the viewers are seeing it at home, it's sometimes not as fast as it should be. We're going to get that worked out in the next week or so. Whether it's something with the modem, I don't think it's our connection. Because we did a test on that with the modem and with Jordan, and the connection is good. So, but we'll get that sorted out. Yeah, the Trailblazers thing was off the hook. There must have been close to 1,000 people there this weekend. It was awesome. Lackey was inducted. Scott Harden, who I did an interview with, he was inducted. What's his name? Eddie Mulder got the Dick Hammer Award. And the bike show, they had a bike show outside. It was phenomenal. The food was outside. It was in this big German beer tent. It was really great. I put pictures of it and some video up of it on my page. You didn't see it yet? Gotta check it out.
We're live.
Okay. We're on the starting line. Let me tell you about what you're going to see on the show tonight. In the next time try this segment, we're going to be talking about how to correctly mount your shocks on a twin shock bike on your swing arm. Got some great tips for you coming up in that segment. Also coming up in the Moto Showcase, a really great little DG 125 Honda. It's based on a 1979. We'll be telling you a bit more about that. In the Here's the Problem segment, we've got some great questions that came in. One of them involves how long should your spoke be? How far into that nipple should that spoke go? We're going to be talking about that. What's it worth? A 1974 Honda CR125 that was recently sold. You'll get an opportunity to guess how much that bike sold for. Also, trivia returns tonight with Finding Number 49, that great book by Keith Geisner. We'll be giving that away with a really nice trivia question a little bit later on. We've got all that and a whole lot more. Stick around. We'll be right back with Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I am your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you, Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie, for helping me put the show together. And thank you, the viewers at home, who have joined us tonight for the show. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Later on, we'll have a random share giveaway winner. The winner will get this nice sticker sheet, compliments of Vintco.com. And don't forget, comment Motion Pro if you are sharing the show on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is growing, but we could still use more help. We've got all of our videos there, all of our interviews. But if you could tell some of your friends about that and get them to subscribe, that would really, really make a big difference in our lives. And when you do subscribe, you're going to get a little alert just like this. It tells you when we're live on the air. And the best way to watch the show is on your HD TV on that big screen while you sit back with your phone and you comment through your phone about all the things that are happening on the show. That's the way the pros are doing it. That's the way the experts are doing it. That's the way you should be doing it. Hey, don't forget, keep sending in your questions, your comments, and your bikes for the Moto Showcase, okay? That's what makes the show really, really special, is when you're involved. So you've got my email, or you could send it to vintagemotocrossqa@gmail.com, or you could send me a message through Facebook. There's always a way to get a hold of me and get your pictures to me, and we'll put some things together for your bikes in the Moto Showcase or feature your questions on the show. As always, I want to thank our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X, Preston Petty Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Golden Products, Full Circle Racing, and Northwest Mako CZ. Tonight's Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. Tonight's tip is on making sure your shocks are mounted correctly on your swing arm and in your frame. Many times what will happen is guys will pinch the swing arm or they'll tighten things too much on the frame and it'll start to bind on that shock. It won't be able to move freely. I'm going to give you a couple of tips right now to show you the proper way to do that. The first thing you're going to want to look for is to make sure that your bracket here and your mount is straight and it's nice and square. A lot of times what happens is over the years people will put the bolt in and they will pinch this together because they've used different shocks. Now, in the perfect world where things are just right, this Honda shock and this bolt would go in here very smoothly. There's only a couple of millimeters of play on each side of it, and that would be certainly acceptable when you go to put the shock in the bike. So, you're going to do that, run your bolt in, and you want to make sure that you don't run the bolt too far in or make it too tight that you start to pinch that little clamp together. What I would recommend is that you do put a dab of Loctite on that side of your swing arm or on your bolt. This way you know it's going to be secure. It isn't always going to be perfect like that, and it's not always going to work that way, but when it is perfect, this is about the way it should look. The shock should be able to move freely on there with not too much play side to side. Another situation you may find yourself in is where a swing arm doesn't have threads on this side of the shock mount, and you want to put your bolt through there. You don't want to use a regular nut. You want to run your bolt through there, put your shock in there, and what you want to use is a nylock nut like that. This way, you can tighten down on your bolt just enough to where it's tight. It's not going to come out, but that nylock nut is going to secure or give you the security of knowing that the bolt isn't going to back out, the nut isn't going to come loose. Let's move on to something else. Now, here's another situation where you may want to use a shock like this on whatever bike you're going to be putting it on. Let's say that this happens to be your bolt that came through your swing arm and fits your swing arm. Well, it doesn't fit the shock very well. So what do you do there? You're going to need something called eyelets, and they look like this. And you should have two of them, one for each side of the shock. One's going to go on this side, one's going to go on the other side, and then when your bolt goes through there, it's going to fit properly and go into your swing arm. This one might be a little short for the application, but I just wanted to show you what you could do to remedy that when you have the correct bolt for your bike, but you don't have a bushing in there that's actually proper for the job. Now, one last scenario we might have here is, let's say you have the proper bolt for your swing arm and you want to use a shock, but there's too much play in there. What I would suggest is that you take a washer, put it in there like so. Make sure you use some grease on your bushing in there, maybe a little bit on the bolt as well. Put it in through there, use your nylock nut on this side, and you'd be in good shape. You shouldn't have any more than maybe 3 or 4 millimeters of play side to side. And more importantly, don't forget, do not over tighten this and pinch this on your swing arm, pinching the shock. And the same would apply on the top of your bike as well. You'd have the same scenario on top. It looks like this on the frame, looks like this on the swing arm. You don't want to over tighten them, and you don't want to make it so that nut may come loose and cause a problem while you're riding your bike. Now, there are different types of eyelets and bushings that you can use to make the shock work on your bike. It is not so easy to press out a bushing like this. You may need an actual press to do it. I've done it in a vise. I've done it a couple of different ways, but to get those out and to change them can be difficult. So you might have to replace them, or as I said, if your bolt is too big, like on that shock we showed you a little bit earlier, just like this, you may have to use some type of eyelet like this, depending on the bolt that you have. Could be something a little bigger to make sure that the bolt that you're using fits properly. Well, that's my tip for tonight. Don't forget, tighten them, but don't over tighten them. Use a little Loctite when you have to, and make sure the bushings in the bolt are a match and everything fits together nice and smoothly always with no more than 3 or 4 millimeters play side to side when your shock is mounted to your frame or to your swing arm. The next time, try this segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. And the Vinco special this week is a piston for a Honda CR480 and also the 82-83 CR500 and the 84 through 2001 CR500s. Pistons are a heart of the vintage two-stroke engine, and Vinco high-quality pistons will help keep that ride going. The pistons are made of modern materials and manufacturing techniques to ensure as good or a better fit than OEM. The Honda CR480, 82-83, it's for the CR500, and the 84 through 2001. Piston kits are 89.5 millimeter, and they come with a 0.5 millimeter size over. It comes with the rings, the clips, everything you need to keep that Honda running perfectly. Vinco, keep the ride going for $164.95 for those new pistons for a Honda. Thanks, Vinco. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is sponsored by Preston Petty Products, we have a 1979 Honda CR125. And because I usually beat the bushes for people to send in bikes for the Moto Showcase, but I was away down in LA at the Trailblazers, I didn't really ask anybody to send in any bikes. Nobody responded, so I had to come up with a bike on my own. And this is a bike I built back in 2006, 2007. I always loved the DG look of the all-yellow bike that Brock Glover made famous back in 74, 75. And I wanted one like that, but I didn't really want to build it on a 1974 platform. So I took a 1979 and I made what you see here. It had an aluminum cross-up swing arm on it. I did some upgrades on it. I had some trick forks that I bought from a guy named Dave Turk down in LA. I had a pipe made from Gemco, bigger Mikuni carburetor. It was ported, it was polished. I had pegs fitted to the bike, double leading shoe, as you could see there. I had some pegs fitted to this bike that were actually from a Cannondale that with very, very little modification fit the bike perfectly. It did have a DG fiberglass gas tank on it, and it was just all in all a great bike to ride. It kind of did resemble that 1974 Team DG bike that Brock Glover and a few other guys had ridden at that time. I really enjoyed it, and I actually raced it a few times. There's a picture, I think, of it here at Budge Creek back in 2007. There it is. And yeah, it had Works Performance shocks on it. And eventually I sold it, and it changed hands a few times after that. But I have been keeping track of the bike, and it seems to be right now in Nevada. I have the person's phone number who has it. I made that chain guide that you see there out of billet aluminum back when I was very energetic and had a milling machine in my shop. But we did just about everything you could do to get that bike to look the way it does. And I've never seen anything quite like it. So there it is in the Moto Showcase tonight. Honda CR125 DG Racer built by Joe Abadi. And this is absolutely a perfect time, Jordan, if we can go to the full screen at this point. I usually give away prizes every week to someone who sends in a bike for the Moto Showcase. I was with Paul Stannard this past weekend at the Trailblazers, and Paul wanted to step up his sponsorship on the show, asked me if he could do something else. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be giving away these vintage motocross Q&A coffee cups, and it has our logo on one side, and it will have the Preston Petty logo on the other. Okay, that will begin next week. So anybody who sends in bikes for the Moto Showcase will now get a vintage motocross Q&A coffee cup with the Preston Petty logo on the other side. I want to thank Preston Petty and Paul Stannard for being a sponsor of the show. I'm going to keep this one for myself because that was my bike on the show this week. The Preston Petty special this week is an integrated taillight silver fender. There you see it right there, just $79.95, available at PrestonPettyProducts.com. And here's the problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. We've taken some of your questions, and I think we've got some good answers. Jordan, what do we have coming up on the first one? Mike DeSanti. I have an original seat cover in nice condition, but it's very dry. What can I use to revitalize it? I've used this stuff, Mike. It's really, really good. And it's from the chemical guys, okay? And there's one that they have. It's called a conditioner, and the other one's a cleaner. I think we have a picture of it right here. There's a picture of the seat, and that's Mike's seat, and it's pretty tired. But it's only got a little tear on the bottom. I think when he's going to fold that underneath, maybe re-staple it, or resecure it to the pan. But this is the stuff I was talking about. It's from Chemical Guys. It's called Leather Conditioner and Leather Cleaner. I've used it before. This is great when you have an original seat that's just a little dry, but doesn't really have any serious cracks in it, and it's not ripped, and you want to really keep the originality and the integrity of the bike together. You can use this stuff. You may take 2 or 3 applications, sometimes 4, but it'll give you a really, really soft, supple leather finish when you're done. Mike, I think you should give that stuff a try. I've used it. It's really good stuff. Don Meller, do you have a diagram, or can you discuss the depth a spoke should go safely into a nipple? Is it okay to grind off excess thread? This question was actually a whole lot longer, where Dan had a variety of spokes and hubs and rims that he bought from somebody, and he wasn't sure exactly what went where. He said it did seem to fit all the nipples, but he wasn't sure about the length. Yeah, I do have it. It's right here. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that the nipple, the spoke rather, goes as far into the thread of the nipple as possible, all the way to the top, just where you could see it. You don't want to have it the way it is on the left-hand side here, where it says incorrect, because I have seen this, especially on old vintage bikes, where that spoke doesn't go all the way through that nipple, and that nipple could just snap right in half when you land off a jump. Now, if you're concerned that the thread of the spoke is going too far and it's sticking out the other side, don't be afraid of that. If it's sticking out 3 or 4 threads, you can grind that down, and when you put your rim strip around it, you're going to be in good shape. It's better to have it a little bit too long than it is too short. Okay, so Dan, keep that in mind, and let us know how you make out with that. But that should tell you exactly where you need to be. You don't want them too short. That's the last thing you want. Stu Jackson, is the paint on the aluminum body of an Elsinore shock, an early Elsinore shock, the same shade of silver it is on the tank and fenders? No, it's not. The tank, fenders, and the gas tank on the 125 do have a metallic finish to them, and the shock does not. It's more of an aluminum look. It almost looks anodized. Some people think they are, but they're actually painted. So once you get your shocks apart and you have them stripped down, you know, maybe something like this, okay? When you get them all stripped down, you're going to prime them and you're going to paint them. And what I found closest to the original match, if you want to use something out of a can, is VHT wheel paint. It's a little, it's high heat, although your shocks aren't going to get that hot, but it's the shade of the aluminum silver that is in this VHT paint is what I really, really like. So once you get your shocks apart, you get them bead blasted or vapor honed, whatever you do to prep them, get some prime on them, and this is the color you want to use. It's called wheel paint, and it's the aluminum silver. They got a couple of different wheel paints, but it's the aluminum silver one that you want to use. Thanks for the question, Stu Jackson.
I'm Donnie Hansen. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. We'll be right back.
Hi, Jeff here, introducing you to Motion Pro's magnetic pickup tool today. Now, we've all had that bad experience where we drop a loose part or fastener into a hard to reach place like a skid plate or belly pan. Well, this is the right tool for the job that will retrieve that stubborn part and get you back to working on your ride. As for the features of the magnetic pickup tool, first you have this billet aluminum handle. There's a low profile magnetic tip that's extremely strong and in fact will even pick up a Motion Pro T handle. This flexible shaft can get into hard to reach places, and with its protective coating won't damage the finish on your motorcycle. The magnetic pickup tool is affordably priced at $14.99 and is available from your favorite power sports dealer nationwide. So avoid future frustration and pick one up for yourself today.
And What's It Worth segment tonight, which is sponsored by Full Circle Racing. We are going to be taking a look at a 1974 Honda CR125. This is the segment of the show where we encourage you to guess what you think this bike recently sold for. Now, the description was very, very brief when it sold on eBay. And I would like to tell you a few things that are not mentioned in the description so you can kind of form you put it in. The plastic was not original. The side panels were not original. It was nice paint on it. There were a couple of other things that were original about the bike, but it was not really restored, although it was, it was kind of presented as an original piece, but it really, really wasn't. It did have the right pipe on it. It did have the right ignition cover and the pickle silencer as well, and the Kickstarter. Now, here is what the seller put on in his description. It's a Honda CR125 and it runs great. Anyone that knows these bikes knows how difficult it is to get parts for them. This bike has everything on it and everything's original. Not really, but it is a really, really nice bike. The tank and the fenders have been repainted. The paint has a very professional look to it. The frame is in excellent condition, but it does have some touch-ups on it. Now, I will agree that this bike is mostly original, but not quite as original as some people may think. It didn't have the original sprocket on it, and there were a couple of other just minor things. But it did run, it did present very, very well, and it did have the most difficult items on the bike to find, which are the pickle silencer, the pipe, and the ignition cover. This bike did sell on July 26th, and it was in Kentucky. How much do you think this bike sold for? $4,000? $4,500? $2,500. This bike actually sold for $3,068, and I think it was a really, really great deal. While it wasn't as original as maybe it was described, and there were some things about it that would need a little bit of going over again, I thought it was a really great foundation for $3,068 for someone who either wanted to return it, kind of preserve it to be more of an original bike, or wanted to get into a full restoration. But either way, $3,068 I thought was a really great deal. 1974 Honda CR125. Who came the closest tonight? I'll be looking later. Full Circle Racing still running that great special with just $50. I'll take your hubs, take them all apart, powder coat them, bead blast them, and or bead blast them and powder coat them. And for just $50 a hub, for $10 more, he'll do the backing plate as well. That's for gloss black and for satin black. You can get custom colors too. Get a hold of Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. He's got wheels, he's got spokes, and he's got a great system for powder coating your hubs. Trivia is back, and it is for the Finding Number 49 book by Keith Geisner. And we're going to have a little bit of a trivia question right here. Don't forget, this is a call-in contest. Okay, it is live. So the question is, he's not trying to give away a bike again this week, right? Okay, the first one to phone in with the correct answer will win the book by Keith Geisner, okay? We've seen a lot of father and son teams over the years when it came to motorcycle racing. You had Yvonne and Miguel Dumel. Of course, you had Kenny Roberts, Jr. and Sr. And you had another two guys that they're not motocrossers, I'll tell you that. But this father and son were winners of the same event 44 years apart. Who were they and what was the event? It was not a dirt track. It was not motocross. Who were the father and son team that won a really prestigious race 44 years apart? What are names? It's call-in contest. Don't forget, 925-234-8181, 925-234-8181. Operators are standing by. Give us a call. Let us know who that was. You'll win the book tonight by Keith Geisner, Finding Number 49. Have you ever heard of, this is sponsored by Sunrise Vapor Blasting, and I want to know, have you ever heard of a Vantec? It's a great little bike with an incredible story. In 1960, Bill Van Tichel and his dad, Bill Van Tichel Sr., formed Vantec Engineering. It was located in Visalia, California. Vantec initially began designing and producing specialized hardware for the missile industry. However, in the early 60s, Bill Jr. became interested in karting and began applying all that he learned in the machining business to specialized go-karts. So Bill Van Tichel Sr. and Jr., they developed and produced speed equipment for kart engines. Particularly, Bill developed a reed valve intake manifold for a McCulloch engine in 1961. In 62, Bill and his father spontaneously decided to build a small pseudo dirt bike. Their self-designed Vantec frame was paired with bicycle wheels and one McCulloch engine. It had a souped-up engine in it with a Vantec manifold. This little prototype, however, was the start of something really, really big. In 1963, Ray Hook, the creator of Blendzall Racing Oil, hired Vantec to create a specialized bike for one of Blendzall's specialty riders who won every 100cc event he had entered that year. With that success, Bill Jr. and Sr. went on to build a lot of different combinations for the Vantec frame. And you can find them out there with Penton engines, KTMs, even some Ducati engines. There's a specialized one. We have it here in the picture where it had, there it is, a Monarch. It's an incredible. It's a frame built by Vantec to fit a Monarch or a Sachs 6B engine, and they just went on and on with their motorcycle. They were featured in a lot of magazines. They were also featured this weekend. There was a beautiful display put on by Holly Walker down there at the Trailblazers reunion. So Vantec, not a real popular name, but if people are into specialized bikes and framers as they're called, you'll know who Vantec is. And now you know who Vantec is too. Bill Van Tichel, Vantec. That segment was sponsored by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. And I've been telling you for weeks now, get down to get a hold of Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting in Modesto, whether it's your car, boat, plane, any kind of delicate material that you might have that's made of metal. Mark's going to put it in that vapor blasting cabinet. It's going to come out better than new. You don't have to worry about anything warping or doing any damage. The profile of the metal is going to stay the same. If you have any bushings in there, brass like you have in carburetors, he's going to get those clean as well. All the passages are cleaned out. Nobody does a better job than Mark Ferriester at Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Thank you, Mark, for all you do for us here on the show. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube. When we come back, we're going to have tonight's winner of the random share giveaway, and hopefully Susie got somebody on the phone for the trivia contest, finding number 49. We'll be right back.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Buford Phil? Buford Phil? Okay, we have no trivia winner yet. I guess that was a little difficult. What father and son team won a very prestigious road race 44 years apart? And it happened in Florida, 44 years apart. Anyway, we do have our random share giveaway winner. It is Buford Phil. Buford, B-U-F-O-R-T, Phil, P-F-I-L-L. Buford Phil, you are our random share giveaway winner tonight. You win this beautiful sticker sheet, compliments of Vinco. Keep the ride going. And we'll keep the phones open for somebody who wants to answer that question. Who was the father and son who won a prestigious road race 44 years apart? The son is still very involved in motorcycling today. He's a publisher. He is a great MC. He had something to do with the Trailblazers this weekend. Think about it a little bit. Anyway, we're going to move on to This Week in Motocross History. It is brought to you by Racer X Magazine, available on your newsstand now and online. Don't forget to see our ad in the back of Racer X. What happened in 1973? I'll tell you what happened. Gary Jones gave Honda their first professional win in professional motocross with the Elsinore. And Talladega International Speedway hosted a round of the AMA 250-500 Pro Motocross Championship, and Honda rider Gary Jones gives the brand its first ever win at the iconic speedway. He was followed by Rich Thorwaldson and Yamaha's Tim Hart in the 500cc class. Pierre Karsmakers claimed the win, followed by Kawasaki's Wyman Pretty, and Suzuki mounted Mickey Boone. So there it was, 1973. First big win for Honda, and boy, they have a lot of them after that, by Gary Jones. In 1975, both Jimmy Weinert and Marty Smith were crowned champion on the same day. The Popeyes Fried Chicken National at Motocross West outside New Orleans brings a wrap to the 75 AMA 125 500cc Motocross Championship. Team Honda's Marty Smith once again topped the 125cc class. He had clinched the title well before the final based on winning every round of that season except the muddy opener at Hangtown in the spring. Smith was followed by Bultaco rider Danny Turner and Husqvarna rider Nils R. Nilsson in the 500cc class. Jimmy Weinert won the race and the title, successfully defending his #1 plate that he had won the previous year aboard a Kawasaki. The Jammer was trailed in that race by Gary Semick, Steve Stackable, Pierre Karsmakers, Ken Howerton, John Savitsky, and Gary Chaplin. They were all riding Makos, Bultacos, CZs, 7 different guys in 7 different places in that race, all riding 7 different brands of motorcycle. What a great time in motocross that was, 1975. Let's move on to 1996. In one of the most dramatic conclusions, Jeff Emig dethrones Showtime. In one of the most dramatic conclusions of AMA National Motocross Championships, Kawasaki's Jeff Emig straight up beats his rival Jeremy McGrath of Team Honda in both motos at the Steel City race in Pennsylvania. Emig had come into the race just 4 points up on McGrath, making the race something of a winner-take-all proposition. Emig, who earlier in the years ended McGrath's run at a perfect season, would later that year join McGrath on Team Honda in 1996. Steve Lamson to make one of, and they were joined by Steve Lamson too. So it was McGrath, it was Emig, and it was Lamson who put together a really, really incredible Motocross of Nations team that year. Lammy finished second in the 125 class at Steel City to Yamaha's Kevin Windham, and he had already retained his number one plate. But that was the year that Jeff Emig took it to Jeremy McGrath in the outdoor series, and that's what was happening in motocross history, 1973, 75, and 1991. I apologize if I said 1996. In the announcements tonight, we're going to be talking about Golan Industries. You've heard me talk about them for weeks. They got the greatest little filter in the business. They come in blue, orange, silver, and red. They're made of billet aluminum. They can be cleaned indefinitely. They cost a little bit more because it's the last filter you're ever going to buy. Don't forget, check them out online or send them an email at golanpro@yahoo.com. They're looking for distributors as well, and they make filters for not only just about every motorcycle there is, but they make them for all sorts of other machinery, anything that runs on diesel, gasoline, or kerosene. Check them out online at golanproducts.com. Vintage Motocross Radio. We've got a little something special coming up for you this Sunday, and Jordan has a soundbite for you. Jordan, let's hear what it says. You're a pilot, you had a jet. Tell me about those days when you first got into flying.
When I first got, I always loved flying, airplanes and model airplanes and that, but the only time I could really afford flying was when I had enough money off of my computer programming income to afford the hourly payments to a Cessna 172 to learn how to fly it. And then that occurred about the time I got the fender thing going, and well-accepted fender sales gave me the mechanism to be able to buy bigger and better airplanes. And I mean, it's topped out with $1 million prop jet airplane.
It was absolutely fantastic to spend some time with somebody I admire so much, Preston Petty. I did that this past weekend at the Trailblazers reunion. And this Sunday on Vintage Motocross Radio at 11 a.m., you will be able to hear the interview in its entirety. We still have a trivia contest going on here, 234-8181, area code 925-234-8181. What father and son team won the Daytona 200? One won in 1948. The other one won, I think, in 1962. Who were they? Who were that father and son team? They won the Daytona 200. Keep trying to call in. That's for the book, Finding Number 49 by Keith Geisner. We're going to go on with the show. Hopefully somebody will call in. Susie will jump in here with the phone, and we'll have a winner before the show ends tonight. Oktoberfest is coming up. Oktoberfest, that will be on October 31st, 2021. This is put on by the Old School Scrambles Racing Group. Tammy Greenhill does a great job. It will be at Glen Helen. It's a combined race with ARMA. So the Old School Scrambles Racing Group and ARMA putting on a great race. And don't forget, kids always ride for free thanks to Rod Lake Racing. October 31st at Glen Helen. The Northern California Motocross Reunion. This is coming up on October 16th. There's dinner from 3 to 7. This is also a golf outing. It is a fundraiser for the Road to Recovery, who helps out a lot of guys who are injured racing and riding motorcycles. Now, there will be a bike show. It is at De La Vega Park in Santa Cruz. Brad Lackey's going to be there. Brock Glover. I understand that David and possibly Gary Bailey, and there are some other guests that will be announced. I am the MC that day. I will be the master of ceremonies at that event, so I hope you can. There's very, very, very few seats left, okay? All the money goes to the Road to Recovery. There's a dinner, there's golf, there's a bike show, and you're going to get to see a lot of the legends of the sport who got their start down there in Santa Cruz. Billy Grossi is going to be there, and there's going to be a whole lot more. I understand there's some special bikes coming as well. Don't forget, October 16th, Northern California Motocross Reunion. American Retrocross putting on a great race that will be on September 12th at the REM track and Glen Helen. There is a sign up, and that starts at 7:30 a.m. Sign up is until 8:45 sharp, and then that's it. They're going to get going by 9 o'clock, and they claim that they will have the whole day done by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. American Retrocross. They got vintage, they got Evo, they got modern. They've got a class for everybody and every bike. So get down there and support American Retrocross. The big one, it's coming. The last race of the season at Hangtown. It'll be here on September 11th. That is Saturday. That's just less than 2 weeks away. Carson City Motorsports Hangtown Motocross Classic. It's the one that everybody's been waiting for. It's the last event of the season. It does look like Ferrandis is going to wrap it up in the 450 class, but Jet Lawrence and a couple of other guys still have a lot of racing to do this weekend coming up. And then the last race at Hangtown, it could come down to that event for the 250. So get your tickets. I know they're selling out fast. There hasn't been a race at Hangtown in over 800 days. They're expecting probably one of the biggest crowds ever. Get your tickets. I'll be there. Hangtown, September 11th. I've been telling you about this big event coming up in New Jersey, October 16th, ARMA American Classic Racing. It's a 3-day event. Don't miss it. I've been telling you about it. Follow it here at Vintage Festival Weekend. You're going to know all about it. You can find out about it at ARMA on the American Classic Racing page as well. Scott Burnworth. I saw Scott this past weekend. He's putting on a really great event, SoCal MX Fall Classic. That's also on October 16th at Glen Helen Raceway, featuring the second annual Marty Smith Memorial Cup. Somebody better call in, 925-234-8181. Who's the father and son that won the Daytona 500, 44 years apart? And the finish line tonight, which is sponsored by Northwest Mako. CZ, they got a little special going on this week. They got a rear brake pedal bushing and a swing arm bushing. One's just $10. The others are $18.95. That is for the CZ, and that's available at northwestmakocz.com. T-shirts and hoodies are still available, just $19.99 for a T-shirt. They come in white, they come in gray. They got a logo across the front and my autograph across the back. A hoodie is available for just a couple of bucks more. The fall weather is coming. It might be a good time to get a hoodie or a T-shirt. $19.99 while they last. Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. And as I told you a little bit earlier, Preston Petty wanted a little bit of a bigger presence on the show, so we came up with something for our random share, not our random share giveaway winner, but for our Moto Showcase guys. So when the Moto Showcase guys start sending bikes in next week, we're going to be giving away this Vintage Motocross Q&A coffee cup. And on the other side, the Preston Petty logo, compliments of PrestonPettyProducts.com. It's a great little gift. You'll get plenty of use out of that. And I want to thank Paul Standard and Preston Petty for stepping up their sponsorship program, taking up a little more real estate here on the show. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, get a hold of me. I'll get you a sponsorship proposal package. We'll put something together for you that fits your budget, and you'll be seeing all the benefits that everybody else here on the show is seeing. I hear the door opening. This could be it. I think we have a winner to the question. We're the only father and son to win the Daytona 200, 44 years apart. This is Joe Abadi. You're on the air at Vintage Motocross Q&A. I would like to know who were the only father and son to win the Daytona 200, 44 years apart. I think one won in 1948. The other one won in 1962. What are their names? First of all, who am I speaking to? I'm sorry. Say it again. Who am I speaking to?
This is Jeff Kokoski from Central Pennsylvania. How are you?
Jeff Kokoski, I know you're a longtime viewer of the show. Thanks for calling in. So who are that father and son that won the Daytona 200 44 years apart?
Well, first off, it's not 44, it's only 24.
24.
I think it was 1948 and 1972.
That's it. Yes.
And it was, I just qualified myself because I won a couple of months ago. So I'm not allowed to call in, but I saw you find it. I think it was Floyd and Don Emdy. And I'm sorry if I told people 44 years apart. It was only 24 years apart. But yeah, it's Don and Floyd Emdy, the only father and son to win the Daytona 200. So, Jeff, look, I'm willing to send you the book. You didn't win a Harley book yet, did you? Yes, I did. And I'll put in a plug for the book that it's a great book if you're in the research for old bikes. Keith did an excellent job on that. So I'll put a plug in for Keith, and anybody that wants the book should buy it.
All right, Jeff, here's what I'm going to do. It was a tough question. You got the answer. You were honest about winning the book. I'm going to send you a Vintage Motocross Q&A coffee mug with the Preston Petty logo on it as well. And I'm going to send you a sticker sheet, compliments of vintco.com. Deal?
Awesome.
All right, Jeff, you give your address to Susie, and we'll take care of it from there.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
Thank
Jeff Kokoski. Boy, that was a close call. Sorry about saying something about 44 years apart. It was only 24 years. Now, as if the Finding Number 49 book wasn't a big enough hit, and Keith Geisler gave it to us on the show to give away. We gave away well over 52 of them, I'm sure. Keith is at it again, and he's writing another book called Discovering 6 Days. It's a story about a motorcycle, a friendship, and the International 6-Day Trials history. And he's got some people that live near him in Missouri, and he's doing a lot of research right now. He's got a special bike that is involved in the book, and we can expect to see that sometime around Christmas. So in the new year, we probably will not be giving away Finding Number 49 anymore, but we will be giving away Keith Geisler's new book, Discovering 6 Days. Thanks, Keith Geisler. Well, Jordan, I think that about wraps it up for tonight. I want to thank everybody who watched the show. Don't forget to tune in on Sunday to my Preston Petty interview, Vintage Motocross Radio at 11 a.m. That will be on Facebook and be on YouTube as well. Don't forget to support all of our sponsors, and I want to thank them and thank you at home for joining us tonight on the show. This is Joe Abadi. I'll talk to you Sunday at Vintage Motocross Radio, and we'll see you next week on Vintage Motocross Q&A. Good night, everyone. Gino? Come on, boy. Come on, Gene. Come on, Gino. Come on, Gino. Come on, Gino. Puppy challenge. Olympic